Hello all. Today we are going to talk about uh, the importance of knowledge transfer. Hello all. Today, hello all. Today we are going to talk about the importance of knowledge transfer. So when you walk into a project uh, as a contractor or a full time employee, the very first 2 weeks is very crucial. You'll get to know people. Your reporting manager might introduce you to 3 or 4 people around, and this is a very good time to form good relationships because you don't have anything else to do. But then, when all these things are happening, you're getting to know the place. When all these things are happening, uh, a very crucial uh, phase starts, which is the knowledge transfer phase. So, knowledge transfer. So what kind of knowledge do they emit? What kind of knowledge do you get as a knowledge transfer do you get as a business analyst? So it's going to be mostly about the application, right? So how does this application works? Who are all the end users? What are all the different modules in the application? What applications interface with the application that we are currently dealing with, or the set of applications that we are dealing with? So we'll be talking about all these elements. So your reporting manager will be explaining you, or your reporting manager will do that, or your reporting manager might just point you to another person who's going to explain things to you. Now, this may not always go smooth. Sometimes in some organizations, the knowledge transfer is given very effectively and efficiently. They'll give you everything that you need, uh, all the access, which includes access to the applications, access to the database, access to the code behind. In some cases, they do give access to the code behind. It could be Java or .NET or Python. They'll give you database access and everything. It's really detailed. They will assign a tester to explain all the minute design intricacies, how each and every page works, what does this specific button in this page do. To that extent, they'll explain everything. So this is one end of the spectrum. There is another end of the spectrum where they might not proactively give you that info that you need as a part of the knowledge transfer. If this is the case, it's up to you to ask your reporting manager for the right kind of knowledge transfer. So let's take the worst case scenario, right? They are not giving up. They are not proactively coming up to you and giving you any knowledge transfer. So what do? Very first thing, go to your project manager or your reporting manager and request for a knowledge transfer. Say exactly what I tell you to say. Say something to the effect of, I'm new to this project or organization. I want to know how the application works. And I want to know what code behind is being used. I want to have access to the DB so that I can get familiar uh, with our project and with what's happening around. So that when I'm assigned a task, I'll be able to hit the ground running and take it up. If you say something to the effect of this, definitely they'll give you a session, be it the reporting manager or the project manager, or they'll assign you to someone to get a knowledge transfer. Now, it's not that your project manager must almost always uh, assign someone, and then your project manager need not initiate everything, right? You can always go to a developer and ask, hey, what's the code behind that's being used here? Can I get access for that? What's the procedure? Or maybe if there is, so what will they do? They'll give you the access to the code behind. If you're able to get, if your system is conducive, and if your system is able to connect to the source code or whatever it is, right? because as a BA you'll get the management laptop. You'll not get the developer laptop where you could access everything. So the all the best laptops are reserved for the developers, and then uh, the laptops that you might get will, at least comparatively, will not be as efficient as the ones that they give it to the developers, and it will not be able to connect to all the source code. But then uh, they will try to help you and get you connected to the source code. In the case of Eclipse, to the repository, to the SVN repository or whatever it is, so that you can see the code behind. And most definitely, they'll give you the database access, right? Might be SQL, or it could be a Oracle database or SQL Server database or whatever it is. So they'll give you access to that, so you can see the database, which is very important for a BA. So the project manager need not always, a project manager or the reporting manager need not always initiate all these knowledge transfer related conversation. You can always reach out to the developer or a tester and ask around and ask them, I need this, I'm new. You can just introduce yourself, say, hey, it's nice meeting you, and I'm new to this place. I just want to have the database access. Can you please help me? They might direct you to the tech support. They might uh, configure it themselves and give it to you. It's up to them. But always ask. Don't be reluctant. What's the worst that could happen? They'll say no, right? And this is something that I tell everyone, all my training clients. You have to go and request knowledge transfer proactively. You should not wait for someone to come and give it to you, right? So that's the time. The knowledge transfer phase is the time where you can really get familiar with the domain. If you are new to that domain, you can get some familiarity because you don't have anything to do, at least for the first 2 to 3 weeks. That's 15 business days where you could familiarize yourself with the domain, right? And you can also understand how the application works, the business process flow and the application process flow, right? So how does this work? So when I say application process flow, what is it? I want to send a friend request in Facebook. There is an application process flow for that. There is a business process flow for that. I want to open an account using the Chase application in my phone, right? In my phone, I want to open an account. So there is an application process for that. So all these apps that you use on a day-to-day basis, there is an application process flow, there is a business process flow that you are a part of. So that's what you're going to request. You can say something to the effect of, I want to understand a couple of business process flows and a couple of application process flows so that I can get some familiarity of the application. So can I talk to an end user? Or can I talk to another business analyst who's familiar with all these things? Or can you please explain this? Maybe a tester, And whenever they assign tasks to you, always request for an analysis phase. Always request them to connect you to an end user who's going to explain how that module works. So this is outside the knowledge transfer topic. I don't want to digress, but then this is very important, especially if you are new to this role. You have to ask and thy shall receive. So you have to ask all the time. So yeah, so in a nutshell, to summarize what we discussed. So once you walk into an organization, don't expect the best case scenario, i.e. the reporting manager is just coming to you and giving everything that you need for your knowledge transfer. You have to proactively go around and get your knowledge transfer. Go talk to the development lead. Go talk to the test lead. Go talk to the tech lead. Go talk to the reporting manager. And introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm new here. I want to know what is this. I want the database access. I want to know how this application works. I want to get some idea of a couple of business process and application process flows. Can you please assist me or help me? They'll most definitely help. So that's like a summary of what we just discussed. So I'll just put it out in a nutshell. So always be proactive and always ask, and don't be reluctant and tight-lipped. If that makes any sense. So hope you are able to gather something of essence. please do subscribe to my channel and comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe to my channel and like my page. Thanks for your time. Thank you, and you have a wonderful day ahead. Okay. Hello all. Today we are going to discuss about domain knowledge. Now, domain knowledge is very important for a business analyst. If you have familiarity with the domain, there are multiple domains actually. Uh, so if you have familiarity with the domain that is being dealt with, it's good. It's going to really help you. Uh, but then, is there a very good chance that you will be familiar with the domain that's going to be in the equation that we are dealing with when you go into a project. So now that's where the question is, right? The answer to that question is no. So hello all. Today we are going to discuss about the importance of domain knowledge and where does it come into the picture. Now, domain knowledge is very important for a business analyst. As a BA, when you walk into a project, if you're really familiar with the domain, it's going to help you. But then the question is, will you always be familiar with the domain that you're walking into? When you walk into a new project, they will be dealing with a specific niche domain. Will you be familiar with that all the time? Every time you walk into a new project, will you be familiar with that? What are the chances? The answer to that question is chances are less that you'll be familiar with the domain that they are dealing with. So, say for example, now let me justify why this is the case. Now, let's take one specific domain, banking. Right? Generally, I hear this all the time: BFSI. BFSI. So, what is BFSI? BFSI is banking, finance, securities, and insurance. So, when they say we need a resource for BFSI domain, that doesn't really mean anything because BFSI is everything: banking, finance, securities, and investment. Even when you say banking, doesn't mean anything. There's so many banking: investment banking, commercial banking, and within commercial and investment banking, within commercial or investment banking, there is payments. Within payments, there is again so many uh, segments, and the project that you will be working on might be credit card, it might be mortgage loan application. So these are all niches, a niche segment. We'll be dealing with the niche segment of commercial banking. So you will not be dealing with the entire commercial banking, but then maybe mortgage loan application or credit card or something really specific like an executive dashboard. So even within commercial banking or investment banking, which itself comes under banking, there is so many other there are so many segments. So that's the rationale behind uh, my statement, which is you might not be aware of uh, the domain that the organization is dealing with when you walk into a new project. So when this is the case, you should know how to you should know your way around when you don't know the domain. And how do you do that? So you have to do your analysis properly, right? So when you are given an enhancement, always, and I've said this a lot of times in the past, I say this during my training sessions and in a lot of my other videos, and I can't stress this enough. When you walk into a project and the very first time they assign you an enhancement, or any time when they assign you an enhancement, always get connected to an end user as a part of your analysis and get some familiarity with that specific module that is being dealt with. I can't stress this enough. So if you do your analysis properly, that is, you're getting connected to the end user, you're understanding the business process flow, application process flow. If required, you're recording some conversations for future reference. You're coming up with business process flows. If you do this, you can always circumvent this, your lack of domain knowledge, right? And in the case where they are not supplying you with end user, you can always talk to another product owner to get some familiarity of how that module works, where the enhancement is, or a project manager or a reporting manager. Always ask so that you can get that info. That's very, very important. So even in the case where you do not have that domain knowledge and you are able to clear that interview, and then you walk into a project and then you realize this is some sort of a remote, rare domain. It could be a something like a metropolitan division, business process flows, and so that deals with all these trains and transportation services, right? It could be something to the effect of some very remote government organization, right? Department of it could be some protective services, some sort of a law enforcement division. So every law enforcement division is different, right, based on the state. So every business all their process flows will vary because each and every state they have separate law enforcements, and the state laws are different. So the way they deal with their work is different. So if you get a very remote and this applies to North America, I don't know about other countries, so yeah, so take it with a pinch of salt. So so you might get into a very remote domain that there's no way where you could get some familiarity on that. It could be some lift manufacturing company, and you have to have that lift, elevators. So you have to understand all the business process flows, whatever they deal with, So you could or some sort of a manufacturing domain, right? So you can't literally prepare yourself for these domains. So you, as a business analyst, you should be able to deal with the unknown, and you should be able to deal with situations where you don't have enough information. So you should be okay with this. You should not expect a perfect world, right? You don't know. So how am I going to know? That's the question. Okay, let me do my analysis. Let me put more emphasis on analysis. They are not letting me do my analysis. They are not supplying me with end users. Okay, let me go talk to another business analyst or another product owner or a reporting manager and get some familiarity on the module. This is very, very important. In the case where you don't know the domain, you have to go and get familiarity on the fly. It's not rocket science. Sometimes organizations will have learning documents or learning videos or demos. So they might have it in their enterprise portal. So you have to go and get familiar with the business process. They will have some documentations, so you can pour through these documentations and then get that knowledge, and then based on that start gathering requirements. Now you have some familiarity on how the application works and how the business process flow works on a very high level. Now you have some familiarity and you can gather requirements better. So so even in the case where you don't know anything about the domain, you should not get nervous, you should not get uh, tentative. You should always make sure that you ask around, and then you're able to do what you're asked. That's very important. How you deal with the unknown is very important for a business analyst, because as business analysts we always deal with the unknown. So in a nutshell, just to summarize what we just discussed, you in the future you will walk into an organization, right? You may be familiar with the domain, you may not be familiar with the domain. It could be situation one or situation two. But in both these situations, which is two ends of the spectrum, you should be able to figure your way out. You should be able to find your way around. And even in the case where you don't have any domain knowledge, you should be able to ask around, put more emphasis on analysis, uh, give some repeated polite requests, connect yourself to an end user, which is you're actually entitled to that. Do that, ask around, and get some familiarity on these modules in the application, get some familiarity on the business process flows, and make sure you're able to do your work effectively and efficiently. Because as a business analyst, you always deal with the unknown. Your intellect will be tested, your intelligence will be tested more than your intellect is going to be tested. So and at least that's my personal view. uh, so that's it for today. uh, Hope you are able to get some good information out of this very brief discussion. Please do like my page, subscribe to my video, subscribe to my channel, uh, hit the like button, and if you have any questions, always feel free to comment below. I'll respond in a couple of days. uh, and thanks for your time. Have a nice day.
Swarna, and welcome to have high add honey or other sweeteners for that added flavor, but I try usually to get the sugar content from using whole frozen fruit. Lastly, the smoothies in this series contain no dairy. Again, some people may think that is, and welcome to my channel. In this series, I'm going to showcase 3 great smoothie recipes. I hope some of the takeaways will be that you don't need to have high-grade ingredients. There is a misconception that the more ingredients you have, the healthier the smoothie. This is not the case at all. Sometimes the most simple smoothies are the healthiest. I also try to limit the excessive sugar in my smoothies. Mind you, I do sometimes add honey or other sweeteners for that added flavor, but I try usually to get the sugar content from using whole frozen fruit. Lastly, the smoothie. Hope you enjoy. Please make sure to hit like, subscribe, and let's get straight to the first video.
Inflammation, low-grade.